Here, this is not a DC, this is DC-10. We sent 147 load to China, 2 to Thailand, and 1 to Japan. And this particular one is that David and I went to France and bought some French pigs, a plain load of French pigs, and took them to the import center in Key West, Florida. And then we bought a plain load of English breeding stock to incorporate it into our program. And this is pictures taken that. But just to give you an idea how this is the way they load those pigs. They put them all in crates, and this is a pasture plane. They take all the seats out and they put plastic on there, and then they put these pigs all in these crates. So things went really well, and I said we was going to do it for a profit. There was 2 years that we made $9 million. There's 1 year we made more money. The seed was the cash cow for DeKalb. There's 1 year the seed business didn't do good, and we made more money than the seed division. We paid our employees well. We had a 401k program. We matched every dollar they put in it. Some years we matched more than a dollar. That year we made $9 million. We gave them $1.75 for every dollar they put in their 401k. Okay, I want to go back and show you how things have changed. Hog industry condition 1961. 98% of the hogs were raised in outdoor operations. There's 1.1 million hog farms. Average size of the farm was 50. Average number of pigs was 11. And we had lard type market hogs. This is in 2010. Dr. Ron Plain from University of Missouri, he and Glenn Grimes consulted for us. And so when David asked me to do this, I called Ron. I said, Ron, I need some slides, or I need some information about what's happening right now. And he said, I just put together a set of slides, said I'll send them to you. So he sent me some of these slides. So this is his information. 95% of the pigs today are born in confinement. 98% of them were born outside in 1961. That's how much it's changed. 94% are raised in confinement, and 90% of the sows are housed in confinement. In 1961, there's 1.1 million. Today, there's only 70,000 hog farms, and not all of those, 8,000 of those farms don't even raise their own pigs. So it went from 1.1 million down to 70,000. These are things that we were doing in the 1960s that are doing today. Modern hog farmers trying to isolate pigs from birds, wild animals, cats and pets, people. They segregate all the hogs, all in and all out, multiple site, weaned pigs, and this is Ron Plain's slide. This is average inventory per hog farm from 1965 to 2010. Well, in 1961 it was 50. And you see where it's kind of plateaued now. It's up about 900. But you can see how it's changed in that period of time. Pigs per sow, been 11, now it's twice that, it's up over 22. The pork production per sow in 1961, it was about 1,400. Now it's over 4,000 pounds per sow per year. And it's still, the trend is up. The impact of Lubbock Swine Breeders and DeKalb Swine Breeders on the swine industry is a prototype for comprehensive health program, confinement facilities with slatted floors, defined management practices, development of hybrid breeding stock, genetically improved breeding stock, and larger, more profitable hog farms. At that time, people said, well, you can't put 500 sows or 600 sows in confinement. You got to have them outside. It dramatically improved the product to the customer. Back then you go in the grocery store to buy pork and it had a lot of fat in it. You don't see that kind of pork anymore. Boop. How'd I back that up? How did this happen? Why not Texas Tech or Iowa State or Walter Burke? He was the general manager for putting a man on the moon. The reason I put this up here is after we've been operating about 4 years in Lubbock, we used a lot of the students part-time from the animal science department at Tech. You know, they wanted to work with animals so that we give them a job. And so one of them came out one day and he said, Dr. Triple, who was head of the animal science department, said, we're talking about y'all's operation today. I said, really? He said, Dr. Triple talked about it. I said, what did he say? He said that y'all was just playing around and what y'all were doing never amounted to anything. I said, really? Yeah, he said it never amounted to anything. He said, you got to have pigs outside. You can't raise them in confinement. I said, okay. Iowa State. When we went to Iowa, I went to DeKalb. We had those 2 Iowa State people. They left. Then we had a lot of people in seed from Iowa State, some in poultry. The president came one day and he said, the geneticist at Iowa State wants to talk to y'all. I said, okay, what do you want to talk about? He said, just want y'all to come over for a visit. So we go over, and he's head of the genetic swine breeding program at Iowa State. He starts in to tell us that you're wasting your money. What y'all are doing is never going to work. We've already tried that. Those pigs that we put through those boxes, they all died. I said, really? And he said, yeah, they all died. He said, you'll never make it fly. Okay. So, and Walter Burke was the general manager and vice president of Continental. McDonald. One day the president of the cab came in and he said, I want you to, they had built an operation over about 30 miles from there. It's a big bubble. They spent $4 million building this thing. Walter Burke and some investors from back east came to Illinois. They got a guy from Chicago. They came out there and they built this thing, and what they did, it was 4 stories. They put the weaned pigs on top, and it was slatted, and all the feces and the urine dropped down to the next level, which was the nurseries, and they'd all drop down to the finishing, and they'd all drop down to the bottom, was gestation, and then they had to deal to collect all the manure, and take it and recycle it and feed it back to the hogs. And he had a bunch of scientists there he spent a whole bunch of money to. They already spent $4 million. And he said he wants to know if you want to buy this thing, and they're ready to sell it. And I said, we don't want it. I'd already seen it. And he said, he wants you to, he came back later and he said, he wants you to come over and tell him why you don't want to buy it. I said, I'll do that on one condition. If he'll show me what his cost of production is by recycling all this waste. And he said, he'll do that. So I go over there and he tells me, and he said, I was a general manager for putting a man on the moon. And he said, let me tell you what, raising pigs is more complicated than putting a man on the moon. He said, to put a man on the moon, you got to have a rocket. To have a rocket, you got to have a factory. And when you put all the component parts in one end of the factory, you take a rocket out of the other end every time. It's always a rocket. It might not always fly, but you can fix it. He said, you put the same analogy with pigs. You put the pigs in, you put the feed in, you put the labor in, you put everything this in, you may get nothing out the other end. And you can't tell why. And he said, I'm out of this business. And so I told him, I said, well, this thing's never going to work. You don't understand pigs. You got to get out there and get your boots in the manure to understand pigs. You got to live with them. And he said, I believe that. But I learned something from that. Then I got to thinking, for Ewell and I, here, Ewell worked for the Texas Education Agency. I had a geology degree. And when I was putting this thing together for David, I got thinking, going through all this, and I said, how was it that we were able to do some of these things or cause some of these things to happen, and there was other people that were in that field that couldn't? Then I read a lot. I read about the Wright brothers. They were bicycle. They made bicycles. It wasn't aeronautical engineers that invented the first airplane. It was bicycle makers. Then with DeKalb, Tom Roberts was a Farm Bureau manager in DeKalb County in 1918. They started the Soil Conservation Association. He had a fellow that was a seed salesman working for him named Charlie Gunn. So Charlie found out how to make corn hybrids. And from Henry Wallace, who was Secretary of Agriculture, came through DeKalb to make a speech one time, and he was just visiting with Charlie, and Charlie showed him these ears of corn that he showed at fairs, and he said, I got ears of corn a lot bigger than that, and he told him how to do it. So he started doing it in secret because the soil conservation people did not want him to spend money on something like that. They developed hybrid corn and came out in 1938. One of the members on that board went to the University of Illinois and talked to the plant geneticists and told them what they were doing. And he said, I've got money invested into this thing. And he said, it'll never amount to anything. It has no commercial value. Get your money out. So he goes back to the board of directors. He said, you either stop doing what you're doing or you buy me out. They bought him out. This was in the 1930s. In 1960, and he gave $500 for that one share. In 1968, when the company went public, that one share was worth $1 million. But it was somebody that was a scientist in that area said, this is not going to work. Bill Lear had an 8th grade education. He went to the Army and when he was 16 years old in the First World War, worked on radios. He came out, he invented the first car radio. He invented the 8-track player. He has 150 patents on guidance systems for airplanes. He had 100 million orders from the Army in the Second World War for electronics. And he had 8th grade education. And then, we're not in the class of those people that, you don't have to be educated in that area. Jimmy Dean didn't know squat about making sausage. He got an idea of make sausage, and he had the reputation. He hired the people to help him do it. And he's one of the, big sausage makers today. And now, what did all these people have in common? None had any formal education in their field of endeavor. They started with an idea on a blank sheet of paper, and with dedication and passion, made their idea become a reality. And I got some grandkids here today, and that's what I want them to hear. I showed you that yellow house. Well, this is the entry of the place where we bought it, Coleman. And I just want to show you that this is a house that we built for our kids and our grandkids. And we lived in that. My wife had lived in that yellow house for 7 years. She lives in this house now, but I'll tell you one thing. We're not any happier in that house than we were in that yellow house. Not any happier. A big house doesn't make you any happier. When we lived in that yellow house, we did not have credit cards. Every car I bought, I paid cash for it. I grew up in the Depression. I was born in the Depression. And my mother died in 1976, waiting for the next Depression. And, young people in this day and time don't have that kind of environment. It's a totally different environment. It's tough. It's tough for them to lose their perspective in the kind of environment we have today. 80% of the people don't even pay off their credit cards. They just keep rolling it over. My son called me one day and he said, Dad, I got $1,000 I want to put in the stock market. He said, what I invested in? I said, you have a credit card? Yeah. You owe on your credit card? Yeah. I said, what's the percent interest you pay? He said, oh no, 20 or 22%. I said, put it on your credit card. That's the best return you can get. You can't get 22% return in the stock market.